Hello guys! Welcome everyone back to the episode of Mando Monday. This is the series where you guys ask the questions and I of course answer them. That can be to do with anything related to Counter-Strike 2, Valve, future upcoming updates such as CS2's first operation, future update to the armory featuring brand new collections, or maybe it's new returning maps, modes, weapons, or features from prior Counter-Strike titles, or it's just something new entirely. If you guys have a question regarding Counter-Strike or maybe it's something more personal and you want a shot at being answered in next week's video, leave it down below this comment section as well as my many community posts. Not to mention you can also DM me on Twitter or send me an email. This week's episode of Mando Monday, we really deep dive into the facts and real reasons the devs haven't really touched CS2, nor sent out really any major updates aside from skins since launch. Not to mention we also discuss and cover bot farms with a fever case, new collections, as well as a bunch more. But before we do so, I want to give a huge thank you to Skin Club for sponsoring today's video. Skin Club is a highly popular case opening platform with a massive collection of cases for you to unbox, giving a fair chance for all players. For those who are 18 years or older, elevate your gaming experience by collecting and upgrading amazing skins through a provably fair system, ensuring a fair chance whether you're unboxing by yourself, competing against other players, or battling bots. Consider the stakes and transform your unwanted baggage into something shiny. Simply select the skin, explore the upgrade options, and move the slider to your preference. Every month, Skin Club features a brand new event packed with cases, exciting giveaways, and points for participating on the platform which can be spent on the marketplace. There are multiple different payment methods such as crypto, card, or skins. And withdrawing your winnings takes seconds. Head to your profile, select the skin you want, and you'll have it in your inventory. Don't miss out on the 7% deposit bonus. Check out the link in the description below.
Let's roll.
Our first question, I'm just going to go ahead and hop right into the meat and potatoes. It's pretty interesting regarding CS2's achievements. This guy asks and says, please explain to me why CS2 doesn't have any achievements. Are the devs really this lazy? Now right off the bat, because Valve is so secretive, I'm just going to go out and say we don't have an official reason. But I think, like in your question, I think it's very similar to that where it's probably due to laziness. Not to mention it's also due to time and manpower spent elsewhere at Valve. I think what it also comes down to is just not a whole lot of people at Valve want to work on CS. And you'll see me and hear me talk about this quite a bit in today's video, where it's really just facts that because devs at Valve can work on what they want when they want with no repercussions, there's probably a good chance there's a handful of achievements already done for CS2, they're just not officially released. Or maybe that project for Counter-Strike is not completely done. And what I mean by this is if you take a look at Counter-Strike's long history, there's been a lot of updates that have been scrapped and not released entirely. Now personally, I think this is due to the fact that there's a lot of devs at one point working on a big project, which this could have also been why CS2 kind of halted in its steps way early back when leaks started coming out. And of course, that's probably why we didn't get it until late 2023. But I think the same thing goes with achievements, operations, maps, modes, and features from other Counter-Strike games or something brand new, and even holiday updates. Let's just say a group of 12 devs start a project like this. Well, if there's another big thing coming out at Valve where they can work on the next Steam Deck, an anti-cheat for a different game, a brand new IP such as Deadlock, they might want to go and do that for the next couple of years and not come back to CS. And well, by the time they come back, that process, project, and progression they made on that is usually too old, so they have to scrap it and start over entirely. And then in my opinion, the cycle continues. But what really doesn't make any sense to me is they have the time to forget these features and not add these, but they don't ever forget to add new cases or brand new cosmetics for them to make money. And not to mention the one achievement that we do have within CS2, A New Beginning. Yeah, this is earned just by booting up the game. And I believe when CS2 first came out, how you got this achievement was you actually had to play a real game, such as Deathmatch or Competitive or Premier. But even with that being said, it just doesn't add up with the player base right now hitting 1.8 million pretty much every single month and also growing in numbers, which is why a lot of people come to the assumption that a decent amount, if not half the percentage of the CS population is just, well, all bots. But more about that later in today's video. But this is the last second add in here. I also will say with achievements, it could be something that Valve kind of wants to stray away from. Because CS2 is such a competitive game at heart, not to say that the other Counter-Strike games weren't, CS2 is definitely the most serious game in the Counter-Strike franchise we've had yet when it comes to competitive. So maybe that's a reason why, which is also the reason why they're forgetting a lot of maps, modes, and features from previous games and added anything new. Now on to question 2 is up here from Dylan. He says, when do you think they will remove cases/collections from the armory because they've only added so far and not taking anything away? Or will the cases and collections be permanent? So this is a great question, and like the first one, we just don't know. But because Valve cares about money, but also somewhat of the skin economy, because they have real economists working on the market, I think at some point within this next year, they are most likely going to remove it, if not sooner. Now, in my personal opinion, I think this should be very soon. But then again, we just got new collection drops for the weekly drop system, which makes me also think on top of that, we won't get any new long-term maps added to the game anytime soon just based upon this. But I think the Fever and Kilowatt case, if they're not removed alongside the collections for the armory at some point in the future, I think there's three possibilities. One, they get removed before or after the Austin Major. Right now, while the Valve devs are in Hawaii, they're gonna get back soon, and they have just stated that the Shanghai Major stickers are getting removed, so maybe they could add something new, but it wouldn't really make any sense. For this scenario, I think it's more likely for them to get removed after the Austin Major. So after the stickers have gone 75% off, things are getting a little stale, things are getting a little boring. It's been 2 months since any major content update, and well, just cosmetics. This is the time where they can spice things up, add an MVP style update, add some new skins, and take the collections out that we've had for pretty much a year, or what feels like it anyway, right around that time. Now, the second scenario is they stay in the game for years, and the devs just don't do anything else with them, because essentially with the armory, they created a money printer. Or three, which I think everyone in the comment section and myself thinks is the most unlikely, but they stay in the game permanently. Now, if Valve were to do this, I think they'd be pretty stupid, because eventually it's gonna hit a point where people are just gonna stop buying these, and players, not to mention bots and bot farms, will run these prices into the ground, so no one's ever gonna want them, because pretty much they're so readily accessible. But what we do know at the armory is that it's here to stay and stay for good, and it's a long-term thing. It's a long-term solution for operations, just minus the content. And Valve has removed the limited time items after 3 months, that being the Desert Eagle heat treated back when the Army Pass 1 released, and they're probably gonna do it this time as well with the XM. But because that is limited for a little over 3 months, how limited, quote unquote, is the collections we get with this pass, not to mention charms. But if we also take a look at data mines and Valve statements within the community, they have stated through data mines, but also release notes to creators for the workshop for creating charms, that they should be getting ready, and then they can now submit charms to the workshop so Valve can take those and put them on the armory, which that in my opinion makes the most amount of sense, but also explains that we'll not get just new charms, new cases, new stickers, but we're also going to get new skins that are all community made. Let me know what you guys think down below. Do you think the armory collections are here to stay, or do you think they're probably going to get removed within the next couple of months, maybe before the end of the year? Our next question up here is from Nixon. It says, why can't Valve add more maps after getting millions from cases? Source 2 can't make it with more content? So very similar to the first question with achievements, I personally cannot and don't think anyone else can understand or will understand Valve's logic and decision making with Counter-Strike. It just simply doesn't and never makes any sense, nor, like we mentioned, probably will ever understand it. I think what it comes down to is they just don't care, and that's the conclusion I've come to in the recent months. It feels like month after month and year after year, we see statements that Valve made $1 billion from cases in a year, just alone from cases, or they made a record high sale with a sticker sale, which that we don't really see anymore because they all look the same. But why can't we see some of that income incorporated into Counter-Strike just making new content instead of just receiving cosmetics? I mean, last month is a really good example here too. The devs made $82 million from just cases alone, really from just the Fever case release, because typically month to month after CS2's release and the hype really started to come down a little bit, instead of making 60, 80, $100 million a month, Valve is now more so making 15 to 20, but no, they just made $82 million really over the span of a 4-day time period, and we haven't seen any of that in the game. I think what it also comes down to is the devs are just not really simply ready to push out real content for CS2 yet until the major issues are fixed. But then I kind of come to a conclusion where it's like, why do we get skins and no major fixes? If you look at the PC Gamer interview with Valve just a couple of years ago before CS2's full launch, they stated that year 1 was going to be fixing the game, year 2 was going to be somewhat similar to that, but we're still going to get content, and then that's where the real content starts to flow. But really looking at CS2 right now looks nowhere close to what they promised in that interview, nor we received all the things that were promised in the promotional material for CS2. I believe it comes down to the fact that Valve has made their success from being weird, and specifically weird cycles like this for CS2. Like we mentioned in the achievement question, I also think it's the fact that the devs don't want to spend their time nor the manpower, since the devs choose what they work on when they want, and if they're working on an operation for CS2 but they need help on Half-Life or they want to go work on something else, maybe updating a website, they can go do that, drop everything in CS, come back in 4 months and continue it, or most likely what I believe happens a lot of the time is they come back and they don't want to work on it because one, it's outdated, or they just don't have the motivation because of the negative backlash from Counter-Strike. And this has been a pretty big statement on the channel over the last couple of years as well, but people are treating Valve like they're an indie company where they're making really little to no money, they don't have a lot of devs, and I think right now that has to stop. Valve is not an indie company, they own Steam, they own some of the biggest FPS esports in the entire world, and I think what it comes down to is I think it's just time to have dedicated teams for games like Counter-Strike and move along with life. But in reality, I don't think that'll ever happen, at least anytime soon. I get that Valve is the Harvard of video games, but it's time to start recruiting more able bodies, maybe even within the CS community. Why is it that half the people within the CS community, one, are making amazing content, but some are making the only content that we've seen that's actually fun, goofy within CS2 so far? Why not hire some of those people? Now, I wasn't expecting that question to become that long, but that should be one of the last questions we talk about in today's video, kind of down on Valve. Let me know what you guys think. It's really hard to not talk about this, kind of just scrape it over the radar, but also not pick questions like this for Mando Monday because it just makes sense. Let me know what you guys think about this one down below. go. Our fourth question is regards to CS Legacy. This guy says CS Legacy when? Now, for those who have no idea what CS Legacy is, essentially it's a brand new game. It's not a mod for Counter-Strike, and it's taking all the great parts from Counter-Strike's past and essentially just remastering it, and it's not even on the Source 2 engine. It's on Source 1. So this is Source 1 CSGO graphics, yet it doesn't almost look like anything next to CSGO, which that's pretty awesome. It just shows, in my opinion, how far you can really push the Source 1 engine, and it also makes me think, could we have gotten a few more years out of CSGO before Valve just scrapped it entirely? Now, a trailer for this game released not too long ago and has since picked up a lot of traction. It's gained 1.5 million views just for tweets and trailers on YouTube, which that itself, I think, in my opinion, Valve should be scared. For community-based games or just overall mods, they usually don't tend to pick up this much attention and traction. And the reason, in my opinion, the reason I say Valve should be scared is because these devs seem to really care about their product. It looks really good. It looks very promising, but also because of the sad state of CS2 over this last year or so. If someone's going to come in and pretty much do everything that you haven't done, that should be a little alarming and concerning. But I do have some bad news regarding CS Legacy, CSGO, and well, just any other CS mod. What it comes down to with this is who knows if Valve will greenlight this when it's ready for release. There's been a lot of mods within the Counter-Strike community over these last few years that have tried to get launched on their own as their own game or also as a mod, and last second they just never hear from Valve. And I think this is mainly due to the fact that they're probably using copyrighted materials, leaked source code, so on and so forth, kind of like the TF2 scenario. But if you're Valve in this case, you want players going to your main game that play Counter-Strike, because one, that's all Counter-Strike has to offer. That's also where Valve makes all their money within the Counter-Strike franchise, and they're not going to be getting any of that in CS Legacy. So I guess we're going to see what happens over this next year or so. Our next question up here is from Crappy Wizard, and he says, what are your thoughts on Chinese traders manipulating the skins market as well as the armory pass items? Is it one of these scenarios where we can buy the deep, or will Valve keep the armory items in the pool and not change it? It's a great question, brother, and I'm actually going to quickly go over the armory pass items with them getting removed, and then we'll hop into the manipulation. So like we mentioned just a couple of questions ago, I believe that yes, eventually Valve is going to replace all the armory pass items just solely based off the fact from statements that they have put out. It just all makes sense in my opinion. So if we're getting new charms, new stickers, new cases, why can't we get new skins? And maybe why can't some of those skins maybe feature agents? And as it stands for the manipulation side of things for the skins market, in my opinion, this is best described on Twitter by Rick Grimes 0. This guy says many people don't realize what's happening. Rich Chinese buyers run private chats, sell access, and guides to manipulate skins, essentially pumping and dumping. These said people create fake storages. A skin with 4,000 quantity in CS float may only have 50 listed on buff, which is 1.25%, all due to market manipulation. And as many people in the comments are saying, this is not the first time nor the last time this will ever happen, and I completely agree. Now with these individuals, but also people in these groups, if you look at the bigger picture, it doesn't really affect too much within the Counter-Strike space, but it does mess a whole lot of people up if you're using these platforms where these prices are manipulated. Really what I can say with this is what it comes down to is just do your research. Do your research on these items that you want to buy, sell, see if it's a good time, see if you're getting the crap out of the stick, or see if it's actually a good time to sell. It's not even financial advice, just do some research. That's the best thing you can do, if especially you could self-teach yourself all these things regarding CS skins. Now our last question up here for today's video is in regards to bot farms in the Fever case, which is pretty interesting. This guy says, do you think the Fever case price dropped suddenly from the bot farming since they are back again after the ban wave? So for those who don't know what's going on surrounding this question, here's a quick recap. Bot farms have been around since the days of CSGO. Most people thought of it, and some still do now, as just that kid in his mom's basement with 2 or 3 different accounts spinning AFK just going for cases, weekly drops. I think you guys probably get the rest. But when CS2 came out, when Valve released the armory, things changed and changed very quickly. Now I'm sure this was a problem back in CSGO, just wasn't as relevant and was making as many headlines as it is now, but it's very big in China. Because they banned crypto mining, there's a lot of extra GPUs left over. Not to mention a lot of people in China also pay a lot less for power than most other parts of the world. So with those two combined, you could probably start to imagine the bot farms that have been created. Essentially, there's websites where you can buy thousands of different accounts all at once, running them on a span of different computers, and they just pretty much go act and play like real players using AI, and they just get your weekly drops, they get your armory pass, and life kind of just goes on. What a lot of players started to notice is after this update, the spring forward one to be exact, Valve was starting to go after a lot of bot farms and people who were using bot accounts to get weekly and just armory pass drops. The only problem with this is one, it's very rampant, but it's also the way the armory pass is structured for why people do it. Similar to cheaters, Valve banning them, having a dozen different ban waves in a year, yeah, sure, it does a lot for that time anyway. But within the next couple of weeks, sometimes days, because CS2 is so available on all platforms and it's also free, and you can buy Prime accounts for a cheaper price with some sketchy methods, these bot farms are back up and running within the next couple of days, most likely better than ever, going around the detection system that Valve has with back. So yeah, in your question, you're right, they are back after the ban wave, and like cheaters, it won't change unless Valve has a permanent solution for it, which I don't see happening anytime soon. Now, as it stands for the Fever case and why I think the price dropped all of a sudden, I think yes, it's somewhat due to bot farms, but it's also just due to everyday players. Because the armory pass is here to stay and stay for good, not to mention your stars also carry over whenever Valve resets or refreshes the pass. When the armory pass 1 with the gallery case was coming to a close and people could feel that Valve was going to send an update for the armory pass soon, people started grinding for stars and very fast. So people who saved up their stars just bought everything right off the bat when they refreshed the pass, bought a million different fever cases. That's why there's so many skins and so many knives right now, because this is the first time in history players were able to access these skins as quickly as they did. So I think it's a little bit of both of why the case dropped all of a sudden, but it's also to do with the fact that the other cases and other skins on the pass just aren't really as loved and as enjoyed as one, the weekly drops that just got added, but also the fever case. You just can't beat those knives and you can't beat those skins. Let me know what you guys think down below. A big takeaway from today's video is Valve needs to have a permanent fix and solution for cheaters, but also bot farms, because if they don't, they're just going to be back up and running better than ever in a matter of 2 days. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Stay positively sexy. I'm out, guys. Peace.